I think it'll be useful before we dive into looking at strategy activation to just clearly define what is strategy. So strategy is the plan for how an organisation sets out to achieve its desired long-term outcomes. And it's going to guide people about the decisions they make, how they allocate resources, the behaviours they're going to use to achieve those outcomes efficiently and effectively. That often lets us down are the leadership behaviours that we require people to use and are essential for people to use to ensure performance and execution. Well, what are the behavioural capabilities that we need and the mindsets from each of our leaders in order to create that and looking at the behaviours? If you've ever read any of the work of Patrick Lencioni, he has this concept of the first team. Who's your first team? So I asked all of the leaders, we were looking at, are we operating in a high-performing space with each other? And obviously one of their first questions are, well, when you're saying the high-performing space, I said, well, what I want you to think about is your functional team, which is, if you're the head of sales or you're head of IT. And I said, but then also think of this executive team. Many of them came back, functional teams, high-performing space, executive team, I'm not sure, we don't really get together often enough, etc. And then I said, okay, so now I want you to say, who's your first team? Where does your absolute priority go? Every single one of them said their functional team. So there's silos that prevent us from bringing the behaviours, the mindset to actually activate a strategy. Basically what you do is you bring your functional head, your functional KPIs, what you need functionally, and now you're trying to activate a business strategy. That's why it doesn't work. And that's what this initiative is all about. What we're doing is creating this cadence, a regular operating cadence with the leadership teams. So what happens is that every leadership team meets monthly. So say, okay, so give me half a day every month and allocate it to strategy activation. And that was part of how we then created the plan and the actions for saying, well, what leadership behaviours were we using? What weren't we using? What is going to slow us down when it comes to activating our strategy? I know how important ROI is. If you're investing in putting your time in there, you're paying me, you're taking your time away from your clients or a customer, you've got to have an ROI. Otherwise, it's just a fun little session that we've had, and that's pointless. So that's giving you an insight into a very accountable and disciplined and focused way to create strategy activation, and it's all through your leaders and their behaviours. It's an approach that's live, it's just in time, and there's a high level of engagement, and it also creates incredible accountability because everything's very, very visible.